Hello, and welcome to OnLogic Live. We're coming to you from our headquarters in South Burlington, Vermont at OnLogic HQ. So we're here today to talk about all things Igel and the Igel Ready program. I have the pleasure of introducing you to two folks that are going to be going on the trip with us today. So first, we have Global CEO of Igel, Jed Ayres, joining us, as well as James Floyd, who's one of our solution superstars here at OnLogic. So Jed, could you give everyone a brief introduction to yourself?
Sure. Well, first, Patrick, thank you so much for having me on your show. Delighted to be here and really excited about our partnership. My name is Jed Ayres. I'm the global CEO for Igel. I've been with the company for 5 years now and been in tech for about 25 years, very focused in end user compute solutions over the last 2 decades. So, that dark arts and sciences of end user compute. So that's me.
Excellent. Yeah, and I did a little bit of research prior to the event, and it sounds like you have actually competed and finished in multiple Ironman competitions, which is no easy feat.
Yeah, well, I did an Ironman every year before I joined Igel, actually, for 6 years in a row. And then I joined Igel, and I figure all those 6 years was a good preparation for the job at Igel and running Igel. But yeah, the Ironman, it's all in your head, as I would say, mental fortitude. But yeah, it's unfortunately running a global company with global time zones. It's made it hard to train. But I do live in a beautiful place. I'm coming to you today from California. I live in Marin County, where the birthplace of mountain biking. And so, yeah, this is when you have the time, this is a beautiful place to train.
Awesome. I mean, that certainly shows the dedication that you bring to the table every day. And really enjoyed all of your talks throughout Igel Disrupt. I was there all day. So just really happy to have you, and thank you for joining us. James, you want to give the folks at home a little introduction to yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. James Floyd here, Sales Engineering Manager at OnLogic. I work with our customers to solve some of their most complex hardware challenges. I've been with OnLogic now over 10 years, and I haven't done any Ironman, but I can binge watch like nobody So yeah, I got that going for me.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for coming to the table today. So to kind of get everyone in the right space here, we are in a live event. So you can, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on LinkedIn or any other location, you can go ahead and put questions into the comments throughout the entire event, and we'll be picking those up and answering those at the end of the event. You can also use the hashtag OnLogicLive on Twitter to really kind of join the action and be a part of this in a live way. And then lastly as well, you can always chat with our OnLogic team members or Igel team members, or just learn more about our products and services by visiting onlogic.com and igel.com. So that's the formalities. Let's jump right in. Jed, for folks who are new to the world of Igel, could you tell us a little bit about what makes it so unique within its space as an OS and how it complements virtualization technology out there?
Yeah, sure. So I'm probably guessing a number of the people in your audience had never heard of Igel. And obviously, even as someone that spent a lot of time with the end user compute space, I wasn't super familiar with Igel when I joined 5 years ago. And the reason is the company actually was born in Germany. And a lot like OnLogic, we had humble beginnings. I know you, Lisa and Roland, started your company in an apartment in Boston. Our company was started in an attic in northern Germany in a town called Bremen. And for 20 years, our anniversary for 20 years will be December this year. We've been focused on building an operating system to consume virtual applications and desktops. And this has been a 2-decade endeavor for the company. And right now we kind of find ourselves having a moment, if you will, with this idea that any place workspace and the flexibility to do that. And as we migrate away from sort of fat operating systems and fat clients, and we consume these solutions out of the cloud, we have a very light, super tuned, easy to manage, hyper secure operating system to connect to these cloud solutions. And I think we see this as a moment where the world is sort of tuned in to these solutions, right? As we just navigated the pandemic and we had 1 billion people that needed to work from anywhere. we happen to have what we believe is sort of most mature piece of technology to connect to these solutions. So yeah, that's a little bit about Igel, and I think this picture here kind of shows you what our architecture looks like.
Yeah, and with that architecture in mind, something that really stuck out to me as I was learning about the world of Igel is just how lean and secure the OS really is. Can you give us a little intro to that kind of leanness and security?
Yeah, so when you think about, Windows is probably the operating system, that people are most familiar with, right? Even the IoT version of Windows is about 16 gig. Igel's operating system is about 1.2 gig, right? And many times it actually gets smaller than that as we tune it and take some of the pieces out of it that aren't needed for a specific workload or use case. And so, when you think about, the headlines of all the breaches and security issues, a lot of times it's done from the edge, from a device, right? And so having a read-only piece of firmware that's very small attack surface and that can be sort of hyper managed in terms of what you turn on and turn off contextually even. We think that this is the future, right? Just sort of an almost invisible operating system that's very secure, delivers a great experience when it connects to these solutions, and can be managed at scale. That's part of the important piece of this, Patrick, is we have environments with 100,000 plus devices managed by a handful of people. And that really breaks the sort of ratios that you typically see with a more fat client architecture where you might have one person managing a couple hundred devices in a best case scenario.
Yeah, especially to your point around, the challenges we've been facing and that push to work from home. You get a lot of diverse clients out there, right? You get a lot of folks who have home computers, or they have, an older laptop that they need to bring back to life in order to stay productive during those times. And that leanness and that agility and that ability to easily manage really shines during that period. And now,
Yes.
yeah, and now some people who know Igel and like live Igel because you have a very dedicated following. Something that may be relatively new to them over the last year is the Igel Ready program. So could you give us a kind of intro to the history of the Igel Ready program and what values you see it really offering in the space?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, the company is headquartered in Germany. Our development team's actually just west of Munich, which hopefully most people know Munich. It's where Oktoberfest is held. There's actually the original Bavarian headquarters is a small village called Augsburg, and that's actually where the development team started in a small attic in Augsburg. And so the three guys who actually wrote the original code are still in the building there, focused on solving this problem. And one of the challenges over the last 2 decades was we just started to have this ever-growing ecosystem of partnerships. And so Igel Ready was our attempt at sort of like really putting some structure around how we partner with people. And we launched this actually in July. And it really is a flag to our customers and our partners to the technologies that we vetted, right? And so it's all about time to value for our customers, and that these solutions have been certified, they're supported, and that they're really well thought out. Not only at the moment of signing the partnership, but for the life of the technologies, right? And that's really important because, as you know, Patrick, things are moving at a clip right now. And so, yeah, Igel Ready is really a stamp that says we stand behind these solutions.
Thank you. Yeah, and I've actually worked alongside some of the folks that verify these systems, and it really is a rigorous process where we run through the software through that piece of hardware or through that thin client before we're able to call it, Igel Ready. And we have to really kind of check all the boxes, make sure that all of those tests come back. We send it over to Igel for verification, and only then and only then can we really say something is Igel Ready, which should give some confidence to the folks who are considering those pieces of hardware and OnLogic thin clients to say, this is going to work out of the box. I can depend on it to launch a new ecosystem of Igel. I can depend on it to integrate well within my current Igel environment. And so we're just really excited to be one of the first folks that launched on that Igel Ready program.
Yeah, I have to give you kudos for being ahead of the curve. I think you were part of about a dozen or so partners that got involved with us early on. And I can't emphasize enough how important that testing is, right? When you think about making Teams work or WebEx or Zoom. These things need to work out of the box, and you need to believe that we've done the work to make sure that they're gonna hit the mark on those important technologies.
Absolutely. And James, what does OnLogic through our Igel Ready thin clients, what are we bringing to the table to the world of Igel?
Yeah, we took a number of our most popular industrial fanless systems, starting with our IGL 200 ultra small form factor fanless system, all the way to our rugged and wide temperature IGL 300 system. The result is we have a number of systems to suit a number of use cases and environments for customers looking for a good Igel Ready hardened solution. And we have a process here at OnLogic for understanding and digging in through a consultative sales approach to understand customers' intended use case and their environment to make sure that we are making the right recommendation for an Igel Ready thin client. And the result is pretty awesome. And we really are psyched to be able to work with Igel to have a really thin, that idea of a lightweight, really efficient OS really speaks well and pairs beautifully with our compact industrial systems. It's pretty great.
Yeah, and you talk a lot about like industrial and rugged. Could you kind of take that and expand on it for maybe some people who are looking at the Igel Ready program and they're wondering what that sets that apart from your standard thin client?
Absolutely. So we've been working with small form factor fanless systems for over a decade now, and so the premise of just removing a fan, which is one of the most common failure points at a computer, just leads to more reliable systems. So our industrial systems start there, and then rugged takes a step further by adding tolerances for wide temperature and shock and vibration, which allows for installations of a computer within vehicle or other environments where maybe people can't really live, or a traditional desktop computer certainly would not survive.
And with that, with that entrance of these rugged fanless thin clients that are able to go anywhere, it has the ability to kind of move out of what we call the carpeted space, the traditional office setting, and allow you to extend your Igel environment, the Igel OS, into maybe places that Igel hasn't gone before. Jed, where are those places that you see these, or similar solutions as well, industrial and rugged thin clients bringing Igel in the future?
Yeah, well, I think this is a great question, and it's we're excited because you go into places that we typically haven't seen Igel, right? So into manufacturing, I think is a great starting point where you see a lot of dust or other things that can get trapped in a device and really shorten the life cycle of it, right? So the idea that you can exist in a place that's got a ton of sawdust or other debris in the air and last 10 years, right? This really speaks to the Igel message, right? We want to reduce the amount of devices that are being consumed out there. You think about sort of the 3-year refresh, and to us that's just obscene. We want to see devices lasting 10 years, and I love that is how you market yourself. I was looking at your website this morning. I see this 10-year mark, like a decade. So that's very exciting to us to see that as we celebrated Earth Day last week. On the 22nd of April, it was one of the key principles of reuse, reduce, recycle is reduce, right? And that's part of extending the life of these devices.
Yeah, absolutely. And these things can really go into those spots. You mentioned like dust in the warehouse and those dynamics, but James, is there anything from your history working with folks to find solutions that kind of takes it to that next level?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite stories is we work with one of the biggest cabinet manufacturers in the country. And so they work a lot with wood. And as Jed mentioned, sawdust, wood pulp, that type of stuff was finding its way into their traditional desktop fan PCs. And it required somebody to actually go and, as you're seeing here, vacuum out the computers, so maintain them regularly. If they didn't, the systems would not last more than a couple months. And since moving to OnLogic's industrial fanless computers, that type of maintenance has not been necessary at all, and they've experienced great reliability and success. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and when that fan fails, or like when things get gunked up and that airflow can't happen, I think of it kind of like your traditional desktop kind of just becomes an oven, right? And it bakes all the internal components. It reduces that, that reliability, causes failure points, and then inherently it can lead to that e-waste issue that Jed, you were speaking to earlier, which is a serious issue for the future.
Yeah, I mean, there's 50 million metric waste of e-waste that goes into the landfill every year. I mean, this is just a big problem for clean water, clean air, and also the important precious minerals that we need to build these devices, which, as we all know, are in short supply right now even.
Absolutely right.
Very true. And also, not to mention that, to your earlier point about how you can have that efficiency and that ability for IT professionals to really focus and serve more people through the Igel OS administration, that maintenance, making sure that, all those devices are secure. It kind of also speaks to the guy who was vacuuming out all those computers, right? You have someone with a business who is spending a large portion of time going through vacuuming those. And from my understanding, that gentleman now is working within the company, providing direct value by, continuing to actually move closer to the production chain.
Right. I call this the ditch digging of IT, right? Whether it's patching and managing, systems, or vacuuming them out, or whatever, having to go around and touch them. I think this is part of the value that OnLogic and Igel bring, right? Is reducing the amount of touch on a device, and especially in places like you mentioned, James, a factory floor where there's actually danger for IT to go out there, and they're kind of getting in the way. These are the things that Igel really prides ourselves on, right? Or locations where it might be a kiosk in an airport or something like that, right? Where it's really hard to get to, it's security requirements, that kind of thing. And so you really want to limit the amount of touch. And so that's the beautiful thing about Igel and OnLogic is, you can manage a device for years without ever even having to go touch it. And honestly, we can do updates. This is back to the small piece of firmware and operating system. You can do updates and not even have to restart the device, and the device is consuming the new needed modular pieces of the code. And sometimes the end user doesn't even realize it, that they've had an update applied to their device. Now, put that next to the complication of updating a Windows device, right, where you get the blue screen of come back in 2 hours. Well, and especially when you're sitting at home across your home network, this can be quite challenging.
Yeah, and it actually starts not to mention having someone go out and do the maintenance, but even first that initial deployment step is one of the reasons that we actually chose not only to verify the systems as Igel Ready, but also pre-image Igel OS on our machines at the time of ship. And so, James, I know you were involved in that during your tenure here. Could you give us an idea of why we made that decision?
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing we've learned from our customers over the years is the more we can do on-prem before sending a computer out to a customer in terms of provisioning, getting the OS configured, and making that dialed in the way they want it to behave out of the box, the less they have to do on their end. And so, yeah, it was a natural decision for us to make sure that, we went ahead and preloaded the OS for customers.
Yeah, and especially with those IT, OT costs that come with, shipping a machine to a warehouse, benching it, getting it provisioned, sending it out to that final install location. By sending it to that final install location and then making it easy to connect into that Igel ecosystem, I think I heard recently that it's IT, OT hours roughly come to about $100 an hour. So not only are you saving that money when you have a direct ship ability, but you also are really focusing on keeping those folks productive and keeping in focus on that ongoing maintenance and making sure that the remainder of the ecosystem is really working for your end user.
I would totally agree, Patrick. I think I've had a lot of conversations with CIOs and end user compute leaders recently where it's all about the unboxing experience. You have so many people working at home today, right? That don't, their job isn't IT. It's, answering the phone, providing some kind of service or value to somebody, right? And so, getting to a point where you can ship a device and they can plug in a few wires and they put in their email address and they connect to the applications and desktop solutions that they need. This is the future, right? It's got to be consumer easy. And I think this is where we're going with this partnership, right? It's preloaded, it's configured. I see a question in the in the chat window here about integrators, right? And I think this is where integrators and the partner ecosystem comes into play also, right? In terms of really helping us configure these devices so that onboarding out of the box experience is perfect with that image.
Yeah, and the integrators are actually something that we haven't really covered yet. Like that integrator community can be incredibly important. We've talked about how we help with solving the IT challenges, how we help directly with the end user and with the companies, but we haven't touched upon that integrator approach. James, what does OnLogic bring, and what have we done with integrators in the past that could be beneficial to that community?
Yeah, it's similar to what I was mentioning, and Jed was building upon. That is the idea of the more we can do, right? Integrators, we all know they have pretty vast responsibilities in terms of where they need to be doing for their customers, and so the more we can do, the more lifting we can do on our end to make sure that we're doing crossing items off their lists, the more they can focus on the value add that they're bringing to their customers. And we do work with a number of integrators, and we can work with them to fine tune the experience that they're looking for that makes their job easier. And so we always invite those conversations for any integrator that's interested in working with us.
Yeah, I would just add, Igel's 100% channel. You can't buy Igel direct. So we've believed from the very beginning of this company in 2001 that we would go through distributors and resellers, and that we would get a lot of value out of partners. And that's actually borne out. And I think in the United States, especially, I'm sure there's some resellers from the US that are listening. We found that it's just been a huge blessing for resellers that are introducing Igel to customers that may have only known an HP or a Dell solution or whatever, right? And they're all of a sudden just completely open to this technology that can save a ton of money, reduce the number of resources, and really add a level of security. So this is a door opener, I guess, for a lot of resellers today.
Excellent. Well, we have before we go to questions, actually, we saw one pop up there, and we'll get to that in a moment. But there is something that we did in our teaser video where we said, we had a new treat coming, so to speak, for folks who are looking for Igel Ready and looking for a system that has that pre-installed, Igel OS. Has that fanless technology, has that silence that makes it so just great to have even in an office environment, outside of industrial or outside of rugged. And that is our Igel 150. So it's the latest kind of thin client to come to the party, so to speak. And it really has the approach of taking desktop power and putting it into a thin client that is Igel Ready. It has 8 USB ports, because we all know connectivity is just a huge piece of that challenge for the end user, driving 3 displays. And it just really is the most powerful Igel Ready thin client that we've brought forward. So you can bring this up to a i9 processor for some of those graphics intensive applications that you have out there. And as well, discrete graphics as well, to just really drive and make sure that all of that is working for you for those applications. And as always, you can go to onlogic.com to check it out. It'll be available soon. It's kind of coming soon status right now, but we wanted to give you a peek and just get an idea for what it might offer to you. And you can configure it in many ways for either power consumption concerns and using it like thinner and more lightweight, or bringing it right up to that approach of it really being quite a powerhouse. So now we're going to jump into the questions. So I think I saw a question pop up from a LinkedIn user up on the screen here below the camera. So let's see here. It says it can definitely use in the utilities ecosystem, example, substations, base stations, and access points. So it looks like that was a comment. So yes. Would either of you like to expand on that?
Yeah, from an environmental perspective, again, what they're touching upon is, again, that environment that we talked about before, where, again, a place where a traditional desktop PC may not live, right? And what Jed mentioned before, where you have these remote locations where people may not be actually actively there And so having a really reliable piece of hardware paired up with Igel's remote management software just allows for, a solution that could work pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, I think the key is the industrial design for the temperature fluctuations is huge also, right? When you're in a location, especially with the extreme weather we have these days, being able to survive that. And I know you guys do a rigorous amount of testing on the temperature swings.
Yep.
So
Gives you peace of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also has many of our systems also have a wide power input range. So, depending on how you're getting, power to that source, you have that flexibility, for utilizing existing power sources and things of that nature. So excellent. We have another comment here on LinkedIn. As bitterly ironic as this is, this makes me seriously happy. In fact, I am elated to hear this, especially since the Igel OS has Teradici as one of the connection options.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that. I think we actually have 21 different versions of protocols inside of the OS out of the box today. There's 3 versions of Citrix, which a lot of people that are in Citrix environments like, just to sort of know that they have sort of N-2, and we're on a sort of day 0 place with Citrix. That also makes people happy. So when they come out with their next version, I think it's next week, we'll be right behind that. In sync with them. And so, yeah. And of course there's obscure, protocols in there like Ericom, but all the mainstream ones, we were the first ones to have a protocol to connect to WVD and the new RD Core protocol from Microsoft. Blast, we were the first Linux to connect to the VMware Blast. So one of the things you're getting with a very, very focused software oriented company in this space is that we're like aligned with all of these different ecosystem players, and we're iterating and we're partnering with them. And so you're not going to wait 2 years for a protocol update from one of these major players.
Excellent. And similar to the leanness of Igel OS, we actually look to keep these live events nice and lean. We want you to be able to get the information and move on. So one thing before our last question, and it really is around what's coming next. So if you registered for the event through onlogic.com, you're going to get an email with the ebook around our Igel Ready approach and how to choose a great fanless industrial computer. You will also receive the ability to watch this session on demand for the next couple of weeks before we make it more widely available. And then lastly, and very exciting, Jed, is you have the ability to download the Igel OS free trial and give it a spin for yourself.
Definitely.
Excellent.
I mean, I guess what I would say is we are all about, making sure that your use case works. And I think this is where people like James come into play, right? And we have, close to 150 people in the organization that are aimed at, technical lift in terms of just helping you solve for your unique use case, your workflow, and, getting that pilot built so that you can feel comfortable scaling it out. So, and I guess I would just add one other thing, Patrick. You say industrial design, rugged design. Like, I feel like given some of the challenges we have today with devices, that you're more than industrial, right? If I was a CIO today and I was wanted to put a device in somebody's house where I don't know what's going on in their house, and I know that I want something reliable, I would look at solutions like yours. And especially given some of the things I've learned about your supply chain and the fact that you guys have plenty of inventory right now, and a lot of people are scrambling to try to find devices. So I guess I look at you beyond just sort of these kind of manufacturing use cases or ruggedized use cases. Like, I see you as a more mainstream solution as we move to a any place workspace kind of model.
Yeah, absolutely. And Trooper Scout, we actually just saw another one come through. Looks like the Igel 150 is very comparable or even more powerful than the Igel UD7. Well, we have James.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump on that. Yeah, so the beautiful thing about the Igel 150 is its scalability of processing. So the UD7 is a great solution with an embedded AMD processor, but the Igel 150 actually has a current gen desktop Core i platform. So you can do everything from a dual core Celeron all the way up to a 10 core plus hyper-threading, so 20 usable threads in a compact system. So that scalability is really the benefit there. And yeah, so it can definitely outperform what's available in that UD7 today.
Excellent. And if you like what we were talking about with the content as well, I wanted to tell everyone, if you haven't registered for this event through OnLogic.com, you can go to OnLogic.com/iGel Live and sign up, and you will be able to get all of the goodies that we talked about earlier. So again, that's OnLogic.com/iGel Live. And with that, we're going to go to the last question here, which honestly I thought up because I'm very interested in this. So Jed, what is the vision for Igel OS in the coming years?
Yeah, well, Patrick, like we said earlier, we think the industry is going through an inflection point, right? COVID has allowed people to sort of think about the world in a little bit different way. And I'm happy to say that we dreamt up this vision of where we wanted to take the company before COVID hit. But it's really about changing, and helping transform the way the world works, right? And creating these better outcomes for, obviously, people are seeing the advantages of not having to commute to work for 2 hours each way, and all the challenges that creates for the environment and for stress. Obviously, there's a lot of advantages to organizations to get this sort of more flexible work style in place. And we talked already about the implications to the planet, right? And so, yeah, we see a future where you don't have, huge, expensive devices that have to be refreshed every 2 to 3 years. We see, the power of the software, the power of really well-built and well-constructed devices like yours with a great light operating system and hyper-tuned to consume these cloud solutions. That's the future, right? And look no further than the next generation of workers that's coming into the workforce, right? They're already using devices in this way, and they're tuned to this. So I believe it's coming, and certainly COVID has driven people to reevaluate how hard it is to manage it with this sort of fat architecture. So yeah, we think we're on in a good place, and it's all about transformation and helping customers adapt to this new technology. And focus is a big part of our what we preach. We want to be really good at building an operating system, and really good at working with the ecosystem, because it's not any one person's technology that brings this all together. It's usually a dozen, 20. We see the technology stack is 20 people that all have to work really well together, and all that comes together on the device. And so, yeah, that's sort of the vision we see. We're very excited to work with OnLogic. We're very excited about the future. People talk about the year of VDI. We think, the decade of sort of cloud delivered, desktop as a service, cloud consumed, this is upon us. And so, yeah, it's going to be exciting, coming years here. And we're delighted to partner with you and see how this unfolds.
Well, we are very excited to be partnered with Igel. I couldn't be more happy to have you here today again. I have to finish this out on a quote that came in through a comment here. What really makes me happy is that it will be easier to sell OnLogic devices into media and entertainment installs. They crave fanless endpoints with horsepower, but also need the Teradici. This finally delivers a piece of hardware for my customers that checks nearly every box. Awesome. We agree. So thank you so much for that comment.
Yeah, I agree too. It took us a while to get the Teradici partnership built into Igel, but we were there. They have a great leader. You should have him on OnLogic Live sometime, David Smith. He's a great leader up there in Canada, not far from where you guys are headquartered there. So yeah, I would concur with Jared there.
Excellent. Well, Jared, thank you so much for your interaction as well throughout. And now, as we wrap it up here, I just wanted to remind you, it's down on the bottom of the screen, but please go to onlogic.com/iGel Live for the post-event content if you did not pre-register. And just need to finish out here saying, Jared, James, thank you so much for joining us. I could not be more happy to have you here, and this conversation was great. And it was just a real pleasure to get to know you better, Jed. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go do an Ironman someday.
I better start training right now, but we've got the hills here to do it. Cool. And thank you to everyone out there, to the global audience. If you're watching, in California, you're watching in New York, Germany, the Netherlands, wherever you are, we just want to say thank you for your time today. And we hope to see you next time. So take care and be well.
Sure.